this past weekend. So I'm Deputy Mayor Sherry Gibson. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Alnwick-Haldeman is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabeg territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabeg. The township of Alnwick-Haldeman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Approval of the agenda as circulated. Municipal planning agenda of Thursday, April 28th, 2022. Be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting agenda of Thursday, April 22nd, 2022 be approved as circulated. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Hogg and seconded by Councillor Booth, and all in favor? That's carried. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting minutes of Thursday, March 24th, 2022. I'm going to say approved. Is there any, could I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Phillip, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So we're going to adjourn to Land Division Committee of Adjustment meeting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, being a Land Division Committee of Adjustment, adjourn to a Land Division Committee of Adjustment meeting for the purpose of hearing consent applications at 9:24 a.m. Because this is a hearing under the Planning Act, when the committee gets to the applications for consideration, each application will be brought up in the order listed on the agenda, with an opportunity for public input given prior to discussion and consideration by the committee. The public will be asked if they wish to make any comment. Please state your name and that you would like to make comments regarding this application. Once the chair has recognized you, you may be able to speak. Please try to refrain from speaking over others. If anyone other than the applicant wishes to receive a copy of one of the notices of decision, please submit a written request for notice of council's decision to the senior planner and which decision you would like a copy of, and it will be sent to you.
Madam Chair, we need a motion, a mover and a seconder for that motion. You've read the motion, we just need a mover and seconder, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So the motion that I read in regard to adjourning to Land Division Committee, I did not get a mover. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Phillip, seconded by Councillor Booth. All in favor? And that's at 9:26 a.m. Okay. Yes. Did you get their name or?
Get your name for roll call, please, caller.
My name's Donald Belovich. I own the adjacent property in Grafton, 104 Nawatin.
We'll put you on mute for now, and then you can speak. You can put your hand up when you need to speak.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move into consent applications, and the first one is Colin and Ruth Watson, agent Andrew Watson, AH 06-2022, concession B, part of lot 23, geographic Haldeman, regarding creation of a rural residential lot. I'll turn it over to Jennifer for a report.
Certainly, through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. This is an application for a severance. The property is located in part of lot 23, concession B, geographic township of Haldeman. The property is located on the west side of Station Road, and the proposed severance would result in the creation of a 7-hectare rural lot and a 6.9 hectare retained lot. So the approximately 14-hectare subject property is located on the west side of Station Road in the southeast area of the township, south of Grafton. There are no buildings on this largely cleared rural property, which appears to be a hay field. The northwest corner of the property is covered with mature hardwood forest. A previously severed rural residential lot is located in the middle of the road frontage on this property, and the property extends to the Lake Ontario shoreline, having approximately 21 meters of frontage on the shoreline. So the retained lot would have 21 meters of frontage on Lake Ontario shoreline, as well as frontage on Station Road. The surrounding land uses are predominantly rural residential subdivision development to the south and west. North Shore Road subdivision is located immediately south of the subject property, and there are approximately 31 residential lots located on the north and south side of North Shore Road. Nuwatan subdivision is located immediately west of the subject property, and there is a large agricultural property located immediately immediately east of the subject property on the east side of Station Road. There are a number of buildings on that agricultural property, including a livestock building. So the property has been designated shoreline and rural in the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. And while the PPS must be read in its entirety, sections 1.14 and 1.15 pertain to the rural designation in the rural areas, and lot creation is permitted in the rural areas, provided it's locally appropriate and compatible with the rural landscape. Compliance with the minimum distance separation requirements is mandated by both the PPS and the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman official plan. An MDS calculation was prepared for the livestock barns located at 185 Station Road, resulting in an MDS setback of 319 meters. The 319 meter MDS setback from the barn does extend onto the severed lot, and included in the report was an MDS setback map illustrating the setback, but there is sufficient area on the severed lot for the location of a dwelling without being outside of the required 319 meter MDS setback. In their April 4th comments, Lower Trent Conservation commented that there is an unevaluated coastal wetland in the northwest corner of the property, and that's that forested area. And they recommended, their first recommendation was that the application be deferred pending the completion of a hydrologic evaluation, because that coastal wetland would be considered a key hydrologic feature. However, their second option, which I suggested to the applicant as being more appropriate, would be rezoning the lands within 120 meters of the key hydrologic feature to a holding provision requiring the completion of a hydrologic evaluation prior to the removal of the holding provision, if they wanted to build within that 120 meter area. If they don't want to build within that 120 meter area, and there is sufficient land outside of both the 120 meter setback from the coastal wetland and the 319 meter MDS setback for the location of a house, if they want to build in that area, then the holding provision wouldn't need to be removed, and they wouldn't need to do a hydrologic evaluation. However, if they want to build within that area, a hydrologic evaluation would be required. The provincial policy statement contains policies regarding natural heritage and hazard features. That would both the wetland would be considered a heritage feature, and the Lake Ontario shoreline flood hazard extends onto the proposed retained lands, and that would be considered a natural hazard. However, the proposed retained land is sufficiently large to accommodate any proposed house or building without being located within those hazards. So provided all land within 120 meters of the coastal wetland are rezoned to a holding provision or holding zone requiring the completion of a hydrologic evaluation and an environmental impact study demonstrating that the proposed development would have no impact on the natural feature and maintain a 30-meter vegetation protection zone, then the application is consistent with both the PPS and the growth plan. The property is not located in the Oak Ridges Moraine, so we don't have to worry about the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan. The Northumberland County official plan places the land in the rural area, and the Northumberland official plan allows for lot creation, provided it is appropriate with and permitted, but with the local municipality's zoning or official plan. So the subject property is designated rural and shoreline in the Township of Alma-Calderman official plan, and the proposed severed lot is located within the rural area designation. The official plan permits the creation of lot creation within the rural zone, within the rural designation. The proposed severed lot would be considered a small hobby farm use and is permitted in the rural designation. All as discussed earlier, MDS, minimum distance separation requirements, apply to all lots with lot creation within the township, and an MDS calculation was prepared as discussed earlier. The official plan requires all properties to have frontage on a year-round municipally maintained road. The subject property has frontage on Station Road, and there is also a small frontage on the terminus of Newatton Drive on the west side of the retained lot. The Newatton Road and North Shore Road don't connect. The subject property comes down and basically bisects a potential road extension, but when the Newatton subdivision was created, they did allow for a future road connection to North Shore Road. So there is a small portion of undeveloped road allowance on the west side of the property abutting Newatton Road. Like the PPS, the official plan policies require proposed lots to be appropriately sized. Both of the proposed severed and retained lands are sufficiently sized. They're approximately 7 hectares each, and they're suitable for the provision of on-site services. The official plan policies permit a maximum of 3 lots created from a property that is greater than 36 hectares, as the property existed in 1990, and there has been 1 property severance since 1990, which is the one that's in the middle. So this severance is permitted. The subject property is zoned rural and environmental protection in the township zoning bylaw. The rural zone permits a wide variety of uses, including a single detached dwelling, rural and, agricultural and farm uses, and the minimum lot size is 5 hectares. So both the severed and retained lots comply with the minimum lot area and frontage requirements for the rural zone. However, given the fact that the 120 meter influence area for a key hydrologic feature extends onto the severed lot, the property should be rezoned to a holding provision requiring the completion of a hydrologic evaluation as discussed earlier. The application was circulated to Public Works Department, Northumberland County, Lower Trent Conservation, Alderville First Nation, Bell Canada. The manager of Public Works reviewed the application and commented that entrances to both the proposed severed and retained lots are available and would be possible at a location to be approved by Public Works Department. Lower Trent comments we discussed earlier. They had initially recommended deferral of the application pending completion of a hydrologic evaluation. However, they did note that given the size of the property, there is a building envelope outside of that 120-meter influence area. Northumberland County reviewed the application and commented that it conforms with the county official plan and consistent with the PPS. However, they did note that the proposed severance is much larger than what is usually permitted or usually considered in the rural zone or rural designation, but in this case, it complies with the 5-hectare minimum lot area requirement for the rural zone. So it's basically creating 2 small rural lots. Alderville First Nation responded that they do not have any issues with this application. Notice of the application was circulated to all landowners within 60 meters of the property on April 7th, and a sign was posted on the property on that same day. I've received no public comments to date. So the proposed severed lots located in a rural part of the municipality outside of the Oak Ridges Moraine, subject to it being rezoned to a holding provision with respect to the key hydrologic feature. It's consistent with the growth plan, the provincial policy statement, Northumberland County official plan, and the township's official plan. So my recommendation is that it be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the report.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson, I have one more person in the waiting room. Will I let them in?
Yes.
Good morning, caller. Can I have your name for roll call, please?
Hello,
Morning, caller. Can I have your name for roll call, please? And then I'll put you on mute.
it's Andrew Maloney.
Thank you.
If the applicant is on, just wondering if they wish to add any further information or comments, and if you could please unmute at this time. Okay, I'm going to recognize the caller with the 613 area code. Oh, okay. Did the caller with the 613 area code calling in have a comment? Is an applicant for this consent application? You would need to unmute.
Yeah, it's Andrew Maloney on the 613 number.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're the applicant.
Okay. Andrew, do you have any comments to add?
No, basically what we're trying to do with this minor variance is actually make office space.
Actually, Andrew, if I could stop you, we haven't
Okay.
come to your variance at this point in the agenda yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson, we have 2 Andrew applicants this week. We have Andrew Watson, which is the applicant for this severance application, and Andrew Maloney, who is for a minor variance application.
Okay. So seeing no hand, I'll just ask the public if they have any comments.
Oh, hi, it's Donald Belovich calling. I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm somewhat unrelated. There was discussion about the possibility of extending Nuwatan Drive to North Shore Road. Am I correct in that this application here has really nothing to do with that at this point in time? We're just taking the property that with the notice that was circulated, we've got the green piece that's retained and we're severing off the red piece, just breaking one lot into 2. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. Yes, that is correct. This has nothing to do with the connection between Nuwatan Drive and North Shore Road.
Okay, and the applicant at this point is retaining those 2 pieces of property as severed? The city's not trying to buy it or anything like that?
That is correct.
Thank you. That's my question. I'm supportive of this application. I think it's a great idea, and bringing additional residents to the area is, I think, good for everybody.
Thank you. Does council have any comments? Councillor Phillip?
Yes, along the same line, if I may, through the chair to Jen, I walked this piece the other day to sort of orient myself, and it does apply. My question, I guess, for concession B part 3 is that access. I need confirmation that access would be off Station Road for these two, for any kind of a build. Am I correct?
The severed property has frontage on Station Road, only on Station Road, so you would be correct. That would be the only, excuse me, that would be the only opportunity for development on that property. On the retained lot, which is the southern lot, at this point in time, the only road frontage it has is on the only main year-round maintained municipal road access that it has is the frontage on Station Road. There is potential in the future to connect both North Shore Road and Newatton Road. That is a possibility, but that is not being considered with this application.
Okay, and that would be George Street, correct?
It's called George Street on a plan, but it's on the plan, that's correct, but I believe it's known municipally now as North Shore Road.
That's correct. Okay, that created some confusion for me as well. Yes, my consideration or my questioning is about how we would be connecting Newatton with North Shore Road, and whether this would impact the proposed property that we're discussing at the moment. But I think you've answered those questions quite clearly. Thank you very much.
I'll follow up on that. There was an initial proposal, severance proposal by the applicants that would have had an impact on the future ability to connect those two roads. And my comment was that it would restrict that ability for the municipality. And so they came up with this proposal, which doesn't impact the possibility of connecting those two roads in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I anticipate, yes, and good job. I anticipate that that will be a very, I will say, contested connection, because some of those residents on both ends would consider a preference to having a dead end situation, so that they don't get through traffic there. So I think in the future that will be an interesting conversation.
Jennifer, do you want to read your recommendation?
Certainly. The recommendation is that application AH06 2022 by Colin and Ruth Watson, agent Andrew Watson, to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a new vacant rural lot in part of Lot 23, Concession B, Geographic Township of Haldeman, is hereby approved, subject to the following conditions: that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the township. Further to the printed plan of survey, a closed polygon vector file of the part boundaries shown on the reference plan is to be provided in spatially referenced Autodesk DWG Windows readable format to the satisfaction of the township. It is recommended that the applicant's Ontario land surveyor consult with the County of Northumberland GIS section to confirm acceptable standards in formatting, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the township, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel pursuant to the Planning Act, ensuring that all land within 120 meters of a coastal wetland be placed in a hold-in zone pending the completion of a hydrologic evaluation and an environmental impact study, that the $10,491.46 development charge for the severed lot be paid to the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman, and 7, that the $1,500 cash in lieu of parkland fee be paid to the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman.
I'm calling for a motion to approve the recommendation. So I'm looking for a motion from council to approve the recommendations as read through by our senior planner. For consent application. Lots of paper here. 06-2022. Councillor Booth, I saw your hand raised.
No, it was to approve it.
Motion to approve?
Yeah.
Seconder? Councillor Phillip, all in favor? Thank you, that's carried. And we'll move on to minor variance. Melinda Maloney, MV 012022-102 Duncan Road, Part Lot 21, Concession 2, Geographic Haldeman. Jennifer, can you take us through your report, please?
Certainly. Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. The purpose of this application is to permit a reduced interior side yard of 2.1 meters instead of the normally required 6 meters, and a reduced exterior side yard of 7 meters instead of the normally required 7.5 meter setback, and to facilitate the construction of an addition onto an existing commercial building located at 102 Duncan Road. Now, this building is located in Fenella, or the property is located in Fenella. It is a fairly small property. There's an existing building on the property. It was formerly used as a garage or a truck and auto shop. And the existing building actually encroaches onto Waldy Lane. There is an existing encroachment agreement for the existing building. The proposed addition, 91 square meter addition, approximately 980 square feet addition, is located to the rear of the existing building. However, it does not extend onto the Waldy Lane road allowance. There's a picture, it's in figure 1 of the proposed site plan. It's stepped in so that the entire addition is located within the subject property and does not extend onto Waldy Lane, so it doesn't further encroach. So the reason that the minor variance is required is because it's quite a narrow property, and they can't fit the proposed addition on the property without the requested variances. So the property is located in Fenella, which is a designated settlement area, and uses such as the existing garage is permitted. Those types of uses are permitted in the settlement areas. The proposed use of the property post addition will be for the offices of a construction company, which is also permitted by the in the PPS, also in the Northumberland County official plan and the township's official plan. Now, during the review of the application, it came about that the existing building is serviced with a holding tank. Northumberland County has commented that it is unclear if there's enough space on the property for the addition, for the proposed office addition and the required new septic system, because the proposed addition couldn't be serviced with the holding tank. A septic system would have to be installed. That information was relayed to the applicant's agent. So even if this variance goes through, if they can't demonstrate that there is sufficient room on site for a septic system, the proposed addition wouldn't be able to be constructed because they would need a septic permit for that addition. The subject property is not located in the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan. So the Planning Act contains, and the Planning Act and those tests are also implemented through the official plan, contains 4 tests for a minor variance. The tests are: the variance must be minor, it must be desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, and the variance must maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and the variance must maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. So with respect to the first test, it must be minor. The requirement is for a 6 meter setback, and it's going to be reduced to 2.1 meters. In reviewing the lot fabric, adjacent land uses, that sort of thing. The existing building on the property immediately to the north of the subject property, and that is the property that will have a reduced interior side yard setback. The dwelling is located on the north side of that property at the front of the property, where the proposed addition is going to be located at the rear of this property. And there's quite a separation between the existing house on the adjacent property and the proposed addition. So in this case, for the minor variance, I've recommended that the reduced side yard commence 32.9 meters, and that's what the developer or the applicant has said. That's how far it's going to be located back from west from Duncan Road. So the reduced interior side yard would only be permitted at the rear of the property, so as not to pose any conflicts with the existing residential development at the to the immediate north. And the lands adjacent to the reduced side yard are already developed with a detached garage on the adjacent property. So I don't think that there would be a conflict there. The proposed reduction of the exterior side yard from 7.5 meters to 7 meters is really quite minor. And they can't acquire additional lands because all additional lands are developed except for the road allowance, and further encroachment onto the road allowance not be permitted. Building coverage has been reviewed and it's reasonable, as the total lot coverage will remain below the maximum permitted in the Hamlet commercial zone. Sorry, I wrote a boathouse and that was not right. And so the coverage will result in about 36.2%, and the maximum lot coverage is 50% in the Hamlet commercial zone. So it maintains the intent of the official plan, which permits commercial uses in a settlement area. It maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. A commercial use in a designated settlement is appropriate development for the land. The only issue is with respect to the septic system and whether or not the applicants will be able to construct a septic system or install a septic system on the property. So the application was circulated to Lower Trent Conservation, Township of Alma-Calderman Public Works, Alderville First Nation, Northumberland County, Bell Canada, and the Township of Alma-Calderman Fire Department. Comments received from Northumberland County requested that the applicant submit details regarding the existing septic system and the proposed septic design. The agent responded that there's a holding tank, and that information was forwarded to Northumberland County, who subsequently commented that the holding tank would not be able to be used for the proposed addition. Lower Trent had no objections, and Alderville First Nation had no objections. The fire department had no objections, and building had no objections. Notice of this application was circulated to all registered landowners within 60 meters of the property on April 7th. A sign was posted on April 8th. And yesterday I received copies from the adjacent landowner to the west, and they had concerns with respect to the use of Waldy Lane, and people that have been using this building had blocked Waldy Lane so that deliveries could not be made to their property. And it would pose a problem in case of emergencies or emergency vehicles, and they weren't able to get deliveries and that sort of thing. I responded to them that the proposed minor variance wouldn't facilitate any further encroachment onto the Waldy Lane road allowance, and that if there was, we do have bylaws in place that prohibit the blocking of municipal roads, and if there are problems with that they should submit a complaint to the municipality, and that complaint would be investigated, because we really can't have roads being blocked off. So that information was relayed to them along with a copy of the complaint form, and I provided them with a copy of the proposed site plan illustrating that the proposed building wouldn't be located on the road allowance. I'm just going to check and see if I received any. No, I haven't received any further responses from them with respect to that. So in reviewing this application, the 4 tests for minor variances variance have been considered, and it has been determined that the variance is minor as the total lot coverage will remain below that permitted on the hamlet, in the hamlet residential zone. The variance is desirable and appropriate for the land. The property is zoned hamlet commercial and offices are permitted in that zone. The general intent of the Township of Elmwood-Calderman official plan has been maintained. The official plan permits commercial uses in designated settlement areas. And the general intent of the Township of Elmwood-Calderman zoning bylaw is maintained. With the approval of this variance, the interior side yard will be reduced from 6 meters to 2.1, commencing 32.9 meters from Duncan Road, and the exterior side yard will be reduced from 7.5 to 7 meters, also commencing 32.9 meters from Duncan Road. By allowing the reduced interior side yard commencing 32.9 meters from Duncan Road, that will ensure that any impact on adjacent property to the north is minimized.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to add any further comments or address council?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think Jennifer covered most of it, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions of Molly, who is the applicant? Councillor Booth?
Through you, your worship,
No,
to either the planner or maybe Molly can answer. Where is the current holding tank now located?
The current holding tank is actually in the front part of the garage. After we purchased the property, it took us a while to find it. It was part of the original construction when they built this. I couldn't find any drawings of the building when it went up, but obviously there must have been a set of drawings at one time. So we did find the tank. Just in time, sanitation came in and it pumped the system first. And at that point, that's where we realized where the tank system was, 6,000 liters. It's inside the interior part of the dwelling, which has a venting system runs outside. So we were when we purchased it, as is, we were not aware of that. We thought there was an existing septic with the property, but now that we got looking at it, we realized that it's the interior after they came and pumped it out for us. So with regards to the parking on the side of the road there's other people parked there. There's been a few times that we have parked my personal truck there. And in the last month and a half, we haven't really parked anything there because of our snow removal, et cetera. And we don't park it to use it. We pull in to park and get out, come in our building, and then we're gone again. In regards to blocking of the property and behind the garbage truck, big Miller waste truck, they travel in and out of there every day. So I'm not sure what time it might have been blocked, but I'm not sure of when it was blocked or ever blocked. But other than that, we found the septic system. It is a big holding tank, and it's part of a concrete tank system that's built into the infrastructure of the building. Who designed it and who built it, we don't know, because we can't seem to find any drawings for this structure that's here. But there must have been at some point to get a permit. We just don't know where they are. Municipality doesn't know where they are. That could have been lost over the years. So other than that, we just need right now we only have a 10-by-6 office space for 2 people, which is it's impossible, and we just need space to have the office out back. We don't want to take over Waldy Lane. We want to put it in the back of the building where it's accessible for our staff only, and they can come and go, and that way they're not we're taking up any more square footage in the front of the building. Thanks.
Andrew, can we just get you to restate your name with so that Susan can record it with your comments?
Yeah, Susan, it's Andrew Maloney, Melinda Maloney, and Andrew Maloney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, go. I didn't know if you had any
Just
comments.
just to that then, Andrew. So if you're looking at a new septic system, it won't be able to go into the rear. Will it be in the front in the parking then? Is that where it's?
What I've done was I went up and seen Sean Kelly, who designs septic systems and has been in business many years. And he came down the other day. He said, "Yeah," he said, "I can see an area we can put the system in place. It'd be a little bit longer and narrower, but he just wants to make sure the setbacks are made requirements for the people which are around us for the wells. As we all know, there's a distance from a septic to a well that is required. And so when time next week was going to come up, he's seen it doable. He's seen it's workable. For the contact time for the bed, he said easily done. he wanted me to do a test hole, and then he will come up and see how much clay is based in the ground, because we don't know how much clay is in the ground. And he said he'd design a system that would work at, for the small amount of sewage that we have. I don't see any reason to discontinue the existing holding tank that's here, which facilitates 2 sinks, a toilet, a wash sink. So it facilitates about four to five items that contain the water. We have no well here. The well, there's a holding tank in back that holds the water just for washing. So we've contacted Herb Lang regarding the well and get it organized. But Sean was quite confident with designing a septic system that will work for this property. He's aware of the setbacks. He's aware of the neighbors next door on the north of us where their septic is, because he's serviced it before. He's aware of the people in behind us on the west end, which he knows where their well is and septic. So he's going to come up next week and take a little bit of time and walk through and measure, and we'll do a test hole, and hopefully he'll be able to design something over the next couple of weeks to move forward for Darrell Hall with the drawings and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the question.
Any other questions? Any comments from the public? Any further comments from council? Any discussion? Okay, Jennifer, you read the recommendation, please.
The recommendation is that application MV 012022 by Melinda Maloney, agent Molly Conlon, legally described as 102 Duncan Road, part of lot 21, concession 10, geographic Haldeman, is hereby approved to permit a reduced interior side yard setback of 2.1 meters instead of the normally required 6 meters, commencing 32.9 meters from the Duncan Road frontage, and a reduced exterior side yard setback of 7 meters instead of the normally required 7.5 meters be approved.
Okay. So can I call for a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Hogg, seconded by Councillor Phillip, and all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Jennifer. So we'll move on to minor variance by Vincenzo and Graziello Dugo, MV 022022 186 Sandy Bay Road, part lot 23, concession 7, geographic Alnwick. Jennifer, can you take us through your report, please?
Certainly. Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. The purpose of this application is to permit a reduced minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters from the northern lot line instead of the normally required 6 meter setback. The applicant is proposing to construct a carport on the north side of the existing dwelling. A building location survey and property of the property and existing building, an addition, have been attached as attachment A to the report. So it's available for you to look at. The property is quite small. It's 0.1 hectare subject property located on the north side of Sandy Bay Road on the south side shore of Rice Lake. The shoreline lots along Sandy Bay are developed with both seasonal dwellings and year-round occupied dwellings. And the lands on the south side of Sandy Bay are generally large lots with mature forest cover. The subject property is developed with a 2,700 square foot dwelling. The property is designated environmental protection in the township's zoning bylaw, or excuse me, official plan. And new development is generally not permitted in the environmental designation. However, it's an existing developed lot, as is much of the shoreline of Rice Lake. So really, in considering this minor variance application, there's the 4 tests that we discussed with the previous minor variance application, that it must be minor, it must be desirable for the appropriate development of the land, it maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw, and maintains the general intent of the official plan. In reviewing this application, the reduction from 6 meters to 1.5 meters is fairly significant. And the overall lot coverage permitted in the shoreline residential zone, which is the zone that this property is located in, is 20%. And the existing dwelling puts the lot coverage at 20%. Construction of a carport puts them over the 20% at about 27% lot coverage. So the excess lot coverage combined with the significant nature of the reduction indicates to me that it's overdevelopment on this small lot. And as such, it's my recommendation that this minor variance not be approved because it is not minor. If the interior side yard would be reduced to an extent that access to the water yard would be essentially constrained, very difficult to get into it. It's not desirable and appropriate as the requested variance will facilitate construction of addition which will exceed the maximum lot coverage and provide for a significantly reduced northern interior side yard setback. The general intent of the township official plan, it's been maintained because the official plan does permit residential development in this area. However, the general intent of the Elmwood Haldeman zoning bylaw is not maintained with this requested variance, which would facilitate the construction of an addition that will exceed the maximum lot coverage for the property and result in a significantly reduced interior side yard setback. I did notify the applicant of my concerns before the meeting because I don't like anybody to come to a meeting not knowing what my recommendation is going to be, if it's going to be for a denial. And they were aware of what my recommendation was going to be.
Does the applicant wish to make any comments on this application? You just have to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello,
Hello, and can I have your name, please?
Lugo, Vincenzo, Lugo.
Thank you, Vincenzo. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's already there. I park a boat, it's all gravel, so it's not any grass. So that's my only thing I'm saying. It's only a carport. It's not covered enough by not closing. It's just a roof over a concrete pad. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Does the public wish to make any comments? Council have any questions on this? Okay. So Jennifer, can you read your recommendation, please?
The recommendation is that application MV 022022 by Vincenzo Dugo at 186 Sandy Bay Road, legally described as part of Lot 3, Concession 7, Plan 94, Geographic Alnwick, is hereby, the recommendation is that it be denied, is hereby denied to permit a reduced interior side yard to the north of 1.5 meters instead of the normally required 6 meters. And the recommendation is that the minor variance be denied.
Okay. Can I have a motion to that effect? A motion to approve Jennifer's recommendation to deny. Councillor Booth and second by Councillor Phillip. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to delegations. Liam Craig to discuss a request for consideration to expand the hamlet boundary to include the west side of Grimley Road, South Grafton. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff. I requested a delegation to ensure my proposal be reviewed for potential expansion of the hamlet of Grafton as part of the official plan review. And before I get going, can everyone hear me all right? Mike? Thank you. A package had been previously sent to Township Planner Jennifer Current and should be included as material as part of this delegation. I've also included an overview of what I'm talking about today as a handout. My review of the provincial policy statement indicates over a dozen sections that support the proposal. If you'd like me to read it to you, I will. Or can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Thank you. In plain language, the proposal is to include the west side of Brimley Road South in the Grafton settlement area. The road already has municipal water, fiber optic cable, gas, street lighting, and the pavement was recently upgraded. The development could be supported by the existing services without the need for extension. A decade ago, this might have been described as intensification, but the meaning for that is shifted. Now the term is rounding out the settlement area. An existing study shows the municipal water service is running around 40% capacity, so there appears to be room to add many more users to the system. However, that capacity study is not up to date. I believe staff planner Jennifer Current had suggested a new study be commissioned. Perhaps Lakeland Utilities would be able to provide that data. The subject property is not listed as prime agricultural, and to be frank, is too small to be a viable commercial agricultural operation. So as such, this makes for good planning. The other reason for appearing today is to answer questions, and for that reason, I've asked planner Bob Clark of Clark Consulting Services to join me. Does anyone have any questions?
Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, just to tell Liam, I believe at the last water meeting, it was discussed about the report from Jennifer Current, the senior planner. She had I believe it was March 24th, Jennifer, where you asked council to speak with the Lucy. And we did bring it up at the meeting, and we asked about the capacity, but it's not just the capacity. It's, your words, Jennifer, was a water modeling. And I didn't realize that a water modeling is actually a study that's done. It not just deals with capacity, but it also deals with the viability of the size of the piping and if there will be enough pressure and stuff like that. So we did ask Lucy to come back with us with how much that would be for a study to do. So that is in the works right now, Liam.
Excellent. Excellent. Would, if they're coming back with something that says we need to do some better modeling to improve, would that also impact existing plans of subdivision within the township?
Yeah, I believe, and you could correct me, Jennifer, if I'm wrong, there's 3 or 4 developments already, or 3 on the books, maybe 4 that possibly could impact that. So we do need an up-to-date study and a water modeling just to find out, because it's not just, like I said, a capacity issue. Depends on where these developments are going and the size of piping and pressure and blah, blah, blah. I'm not a water expert, right? But they were going to get back to us. They said the cost of that, Coburg, I guess, did one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Coburg just did a study recently and it cost $25,000, but they thought with something as small as a municipality that we have, that it wouldn't cost very much at all. So they were going to get back to us with the cost for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, did you have a comment or you're just agreeing? Just agreeing, okay. And I should actually probably call for a motion to have Liam come up as delegation initially.
He's on the agenda.
Sorry, jumped the gun.
You're eager, that's good. So just a motion to have Liam Craig take the floor as a delegation. Moved by Councillor Hogg and second by Councillor Phillip, and all in favor. And then will we receive and file this after Liam is finished?
Yes.
As a separate motion? Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Go ahead, Councillor.
I have, this is going to happen in the Grafton Hamlet, right?
We're
Well,
asking to
proposed-
be included within the hamlet.
Okay. And how many workable acres are there?
How many workable acres?
Would there be, like, is it being farmed now?
It is being farmed now by Ian Gredanis out of Wicklow, sorry, Travis Gredanis. There's roughly 40 acres being worked.
Okay.
I've got a question, but it's to our senior planner. So following this presentation, what's the next steps that the township has to engage in with Liam?
If the township wants to request an expansion to the Grafton settlement area, the reason this came up right now is Northumberland County is currently undertaking a growth management exercise as a part of their official plan. So if the township wants the county to consider an expanded or minor rounding out of the Grafton settlement area to include this property, you would need to pass a motion and then send a letter to Northumberland County requesting that this land be included in the Grafton settlement area in the Northumberland County official plan update. And that would permit, it is possible to do it under a municipal comprehensive review when the township does that, but then you'd have to go back, Mr. Craig would have to go back and amend the county official plan. So at this point in time, if it was included in the county official plan, it still doesn't mean it's been included in the township's official plan. That's just one step towards getting it included in the township's official plan. Then when Mr. Craig would have the option of either applying for an official plan amendment to amend the township's official plan to include those lands for development, when he wants to do a plan of subdivision, or he could wait until the township was doing a comprehensive official plan update and we could include the land in the Grafton settlement area at that point in time. So there's two options, but getting it included in the county official plan is the first step.
And is that something that we're looking to be undertaken at this meeting, or would that be on a future agenda?
I would think that there was no notice of motion. Do you have to have a notice of motion for that kind of thing? I'm not sure. I guess I didn't anticipate that it would be taking place at this meeting. I do know that the county is working on their official plan update. So if the township is wanting to do it, it should probably happen within the next month or two.
Okay. So the next step for Mr. Craig is coming back with a formal request?
Well, this is his formal request. This
Okay.
is his formal request. I'm just not sure from a, Pat can take this one.
Go ahead.
So it is on the agenda. So council has the ability to make the decision if they want to support the request or if they want to defer it or deny it. So you do have that ability at this meeting because it was on a public agenda and it's been brought forward.
Okay. I'm going to make a comment, and to me, it makes sense that we expand what is already existing where our services are. We've got our schools, we've got our recreation and culture. We've got some shops. So my preference is, we've identified these areas, and I think it makes sense at this point when we're talking about growth to expand what is already existing. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. I like the spirit of the idea, but I would roll back to Councillor Booth's comment about the ability to serve this possible development as water is directly part of the process. So I would like to see the report through Lucy before we move to support Mr. Craig's proposal. Again, I like the spirit, but I want to make sure that we can walk before we can run. Thank you.
Any idea, I guess, question to Councillor Booth, Councillor Phillip, about the timeline for that report?
I believe our next water meeting is not until June.
So it would be that at that point.
Yeah, and I would agree with Councillor Phillip. I mean, it's a great idea. I really like the proposal, but I agree we have to take it step by step, and it's not something that we want to rush into. I don't expect there to be any issue with the water modeling. I mean, they would give us a price for it, and I'm sure that we have to do that anyway, right, with the future proposal of development. And as long as everything is okay with that, then I would be, say, full steam ahead, no problem. But I agree with Councillor Mike. Let's not jump too far ahead and then find out that we get a report back to saying that it's not plausible.
So you'll ask for the report at the June water board meeting.
Well, they're going to come back to us, excuse me, with a price of what it will be. And then in June, hopefully we could authorize that. And then I would guess it wouldn't be the next meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, is in September.
Okay. Go ahead, Liz.
The only thing that I see as an issue is the county is looking to submit their official plan review to the province in July. So perhaps a strategy could be that we get it included in the county's official plan, but the township still has the ability to withhold their approval based on the results of the report.
Go ahead, Pat.
Another option that council may want to consider is, I know the water committee has asked for that information, but rather than maybe bringing it back to the water committee, maybe you would like to bring it back to council to make that decision. Otherwise, there will be a delay until September.
So if we bring it back to the next, it would be at the next planning meeting, or we could do it at the regular council?
Yeah, it would be either the meeting on the 19th, or you could bring it to the planning meeting.
We brought it on the 19th. I guess, and I think if there's viability for this expansion, it makes sense to get it onto the county official plan. So,
and I'm not sure, Jennifer, do you know when the deadline is that the county's looking for comments? I know
they're doing their work now. So I have spoken to Dwayne, the county planner, about this, and he didn't seem to indicate that it would be a significant issue for a local municipality to ask for minor rounding out. I don't think anybody else has done it, but so I don't think it will impact any of the work that they're doing right now, but I know that it is imminent. I can call Dwayne, but again, I make a call, then I bring a report back. That's a month. So,
yeah. So in terms of if we approved, if we approved a motion to have a minor rounding out with the county, with the provision that if water servicing doesn't support it, that would not go anywhere. Is that the kind of motion that would that work?
I think that would work. There's also the requirement for if you include it in the county official plan, that gives it some standing, that's true. But I think that the municipality would still be able, if an application for an official plan came forward, and it was demonstrated that there was not sufficient water capacity, it would be within the municipality's ability to turn down such a request based on the fact that services aren't available.
Right. Okay. Any comments from council on that? What's your wish to?
I'm fine with that. I just don't want to rush things through too fast just because of a deadline with the county. I mean, if we have to go a little slower and it ends up happening in the fall, then that's the way it is. I mean, what's the ramifications, Jennifer, is if you mention it to them that we're looking at this, but we're just waiting for reports and that to come back, how hard is that to go back to the county for them to round this off? Is that something that has to start all over again? And if something like this happens, does there have to be public meetings or anything like that that people get comments on when we're doing that? Or is it just something that council just passes? Like, there's no use in ramming it all through and then find out we have to have meetings or hold public consultations and then it ends up being in the fall anyway.
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That's a
I
lot
just
of
want to make
questions.
sure we're not trying to jump ahead of the cart
Yeah.
here and find out that we're going to get stuck somewhere else.
The county is currently undertaking their official plan update, and as a result of that, they're doing a number of OPAs or official plan amendments. And each official plan amendment, they're going to have public open houses and public meetings. So this information, if we want to have this included, it will have to go in. It will need to be included in the documents that are prepared and submitted, available for public comment at those public open houses and public meetings. That being said, I don't recall whether they have scheduled the public meetings and public open houses for, I think it would be OPA number 2, which is the growth management exercise. I can get additional details, but again, when I get additional details, then it's a month out by the time I bring a report back to council. I don't know. I know that they're working on it. I don't know exactly what their timeline is. It could be that their timeline actually is fall. I don't know.
And does that mean if the county's having public meetings, are we required then to have public meetings then, the municipality, before something like this too?
No, this is a request from Mr. Craig for the township to request the county to amend their official plan. At this point in time, it wouldn't be our official plan that was being updated. When the township does an official plan update or an official plan amendment, then we're required to have public meetings and public open houses.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the county's got to have those meetings and then we have to have those meetings. So it's looking now like it's going to be somewhere probably in the fall then, because even if the county did something in the summer, we'd have to do it after the county, right?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I think I'm not being very clear. I apologize. The county has to review their is updating their document. And their document is sort of over top of our document. And then at some point in time, Mr. Craig is going to decide that he wants to develop it. And if he wants to develop it before we have updated our official plan through a comprehensive process, he'll have to submit an official plan amendment application. That could be next year, that could be 2 years, that could be 3 years. That would be up to him. If before Mr. Craig decides he wants to proceed with an official plan amendment, we undertake a comprehensive review of our official plan. It's not in the work plan this year because I don't have the budget for it, so it's not there. If we decide to update it, and we are going to have to, because we're going to have to update our official plan to include OPA number 1, which was the natural heritage strategy. So it could very well be that next year, so 2023, the township does a comprehensive review of our official plan. And we could include this if we have the supporting documentation and water modeling would support the inclusion of these lands in our official plan. It could be included at that point in time. So there's sort of the county official plan that they're doing right now, the growth management. If this doesn't get included in the county official plan, it could be done through an amendment to the county official plan. It's just expensive, very expensive.
Thank you. And if I could just add, it's the province that has the final word on expansion of settlement areas. So if we get it done through the county, then the province has already said, okay, we've reviewed that, that makes sense. It's still up to the township here to say, their services are there, and the services are in place, we agree with it, or, sorry, there's not enough water.
So in other words, basically, we're looking at, let's proceed with the county to at least get it on the agenda and have them look at it, but it's not something that's going to be rushed through on our end because there's all these steps to be met before it even comes back to us.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Grit, am I recognizing you to speak as a member of the water board?
No, as a member of the public, because you're still in the public.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not actually officially appointed yet, but thank you. For you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. I live in Grafton. I actually think this is exactly the type of development that we can do. And this is right around the gap. You look right across the street from where this development is. That's where you've got residential. Really there, and it's all residential area, so it actually fits in. Plus, it can't be expanded. It's not like they can come back and say we're going to do another 50 acres behind, because there's natural environmental barriers, trees and creek and whatever else. So it kind of fits in perfectly, and I think the dogs will go for it. So that's what this is.
Thanks. Thank you, Grit. Mike, Councillor Phillip, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I just wanted to ask Jennifer or yourself to summarize Grit's comment because I just couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I should have had her come up too. She basically, as a summary, she's in favor of it. In terms of it fits into the landscape of the existing hamlet. In a nutshell. Yeah. Okay, so how do you want to proceed?
Well, maybe we need a recommendation from you, Jennifer. How do we, I mean, I don't want to slow it down, but it sounds like we need to do something to get some kind of mention to county that we're looking at this.
Recommendation could, sorry, through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson, the recommendation could be that the Council for the Township of Alma-Caldeman recommends that the part of Lot 25 Concession A, as illustrated on Figure 1 to the Clark Consulting Services report, be included in the official plan update, or the growth, the official plan update for the county official plan as part of the Grafton settlement area. I'm wondering, pending completion of confirmation of sufficient water capacity. Water, yeah, the water modeling will demonstrate water capacity or water servicing capacity.
So that gets it to the county.
That gets it to the
That gets
county.
the first step started. And I think there's lots of steps thereafter that we're not, in my mind, we're not rushing things. We're just meeting timelines as scheduled by other municipalities.
I think I would like to put some mention in your motion about the requirement to confirm water capacity.
Okay. I hope somebody was writing that down as Jennifer was talking.
That's why these meetings are recorded.
Yeah. So is anybody willing to make that motion today?
Sure.
Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Phillip. All in favor? That's good. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
That's a start anyway.
Yeah. Now it's in the county's hand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask for a motion, I guess, to receive and file the report.
Yes.
By Mr. Craig. Motion made by Councillor Hogg, second by Counselor Booth to just receive and file the report. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks. And so a motion to reconvene to municipal planning meeting, be it resolved.
Sorry, through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. These next two items should be dealt with while we're still in Committee of Adjustment.
Okay.
Sorry, I may have them in the wrong place on the agenda.
No, so we're moving to item 11 on our agenda, business arising from previous minutes. Bernard Reinhardt,
Correct.
application AH 04-2022, concession 9, part of lot 26, geographic Haldeman, rechange of conditions consent. And, okay, so I'm out of order here in my. And you'll take us
I'll
through
take
that
these through you
report?
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, these reports, there are in on March 24th, 2022, the Committee of Adjustment approved two severances, AH 04-2022 and AH 05-2022 for Bernard Reinhardt. And they conditionally approved two severed lots on Packer Road. Unfortunately, in the recommendation, I failed to include the requirement that both lots be rezoned. So I am, this report is recommending a change in conditions, which the municipality is allowed to do. The committee is allowed to change the conditions on a conditionally approved severance to include the requirement that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel pursuant to the Planning Act. So these are reports 2022 PED 17 and 2022 PED 18. They're identical. There's one for each severed lot, and they need to be rezoned. I had omitted that requirement in the list of conditions,
Okay.
and I can't just add it after council makes a decision.
Do we need a motion for each report?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So can you read the recommendation for the first
Yes.
report?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. The recommendation is that the conditions of consent approval AH 04-2022, which conditionally approved the creation of a vacant rural residential lot in part of lot 26, concession 9, geographic township of Haldeman, and which was approved by the Land Division Committee on March 24th, 2022, be amended with the addition of the following condition: that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel pursuant to the Planning Act.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve? Counselor Hogg, second by Counselor Booth, all in favor? That's carried. And your second recommendation?
That the conditions of consent approval AH 05-2022, which conditionally approved the creation of a vacant rural residential lot in part of lot 26, concession 9, geographic township of Haldeman, and which was approved by the Land Division Committee on March 24th, 2022, be amended with the addition of the following condition: that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel pursuant to the Planning Act.
Okay, so a motion to approve that recommendation. Moved by Counselor Booth, second by Counselor Hogg, and all in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll have a motion to reconvene to municipal planning meeting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Alnwick Haldeman, being a Land Division Committee of Adjustment, reconvene to the municipal planning meeting at 10:40 a.m. Can I have a mover? Counselor Booth. Second by Counselor Hogg. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so we have some communications. Email correspondence from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister Steve Clark, dated March 24th, 2022, growing the Greenbelt Phase 2 consultation notification letter. Be it resolved that the correspondence received from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister Steve Clark, dated May 24th, 2022, be received and filed. A mover, please. Moved by Counselor Hogg, seconded by Counselor Booth. All in favor? And correspondence from the Township of Adelaide Metcalf in support of the City of Gravenhurst redissolution of the Ontario Land Tribunal. Be it resolved that the correspondence received from the Township of Adelaide Metcalf be received and filed. Any comments? Okay, motion to approve, receive and file. Counselor Phillip, second by Counselor Booth. All in favor? That's passed. Email correspondence received from Northumberland County dated April 7th, 2022, regrowth management amendment to the county official plan. Be it resolved that the correspondence received from Northumberland County regrowth management amendment to the county official plan dated April 7th, 2022 be received and filed. Motion to approve. Counselor Hogg. Seconded by Counselor Phillip. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Carried. Planning reports. Bill 109, changes to the Planning Act, Development Charges Act, New Home Construction Licensing Act, Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act, and Rebuilding Consumer Confidence Act 2020. Jennifer, you going to give us a report on
Yes.
all
I
those
am.
acts?
Well, I'm going to give, I did a report and I summarized what was most significant to the municipality, and I provided the slides from the technical overview that the province gave. This was very, I'll say rushed, because they released the bill on March 30th, and they said that we would have a comment period to April 29th, but the bill received royal assent on April 14th. So I guess comments weren't really wanted. So the summary of the comments or the changes is available in the technical overview that bulletin prepared by the province. There are a number of changes to various pieces of provincial legislation. There are I've indicated the few that I think are most significant for our particular municipality. Bill 109 contains provisions requiring the municipal refund of zoning bylaw amendment and site plan application fees if timeframes are not met. These refund requirements are summarized below. So basically, if a zoning bylaw amendment is not approved within 90 days, if it's approved within 90 days, there's no refund. If it's approved within 90 to 150 days, they get a 50% refund on their application fees. If a decision is made between 150 and 210 days, they get 75% of their fees back. And if it takes over 210 days, they get 100% of their application fees back. Most of the time, I'm going to say almost, I think all the time right now, we are meeting our zoning bylaw amendment timeline requirements. So we wouldn't require the refund of any application fees. Where this becomes more difficult is with site plan applications. Right now, we have and it wouldn't pertain particularly to this application because it's already been received, but we've received a site plan application for Whispering Springs. We received it in the early 2021, and it did not contain sufficient information. They needed ECA approvals from the province, and we're waiting for it. We've been waiting for it for over a year. So if this was in effect at that point in time, we would have to give them all of their application fees back. That being said, the changes also contain a requirement or a provision to declare an application complete for site plan approval. That wasn't currently in place. Right now, for, I believe it's subdivisions, zoning bylaw amendments, and official plan amendments, you have to, within, I forget whether it's 15 or 30 days, declare an application complete. You can take it in, you can look at the supporting information, you can decide if all the information's there. If it's there, then we issue a letter of complete application and our timeline starts there. So site plans or previously did not have that requirement, but now they do. So we can review a site plan application, look at the supporting documentation, decide if it's complete application. If it's a complete application, we issue a letter and it starts at that point in time. So the application fees thing is it's a little alarming, but I think we can deal with it. I think we have the ability to deal with it here. Where we don't have, some municipalities have a really big bureaucracy and it takes a long time to get something approved. We're pretty lean here and we can get it done fairly quickly. Another thing though is site plan approval delegation. As of July 1st, 2022, the approval of site plans must be delegated to staff. Council will no longer be able to approve site plans.
That's not a bad change.
No, when I was in Quinte West, the approval of site plans was delegated to a committee of staff. It consisted of I believe it was the chief or the director of planning, the director of public works, the fire chief, and the chief building officer official, or their delegates. And there was a site plan committee, and that site plan committee approved site plans. They could also, at that point, bump it up if they felt that council needed to approve it. So we are going to have to amend our site plan control bylaw, delegating the approval of site plans to staff. And council will have to consider how they want to do that and who they want to delegate it to, whether they want to delegate it to the clerk and the CAO or a committee of staff or what. And in that same bylaw, it will also include a provision that allows the mayor and the clerk to sign the site plan agreements. I have a sample of a bylaw that includes wording. Okay. So that's not that we get that many site plans, but it is a significant change, especially for urban municipalities. Because, and if you don't delegate the approval of site plans to staff, council won't have the ability to approve site plans.
I have a question. Is this site planning, is this for residential or for?
It's for any site plans. So if it's a commercial site plan, if it's the Whispering Springs site plan right now I've got a simple site plan that's going to council next week for a residential lot. It'll be for that one. It'll be any site plan approval. In urban municipalities, you have a lot of site plan approvals. You've got every time you've got a commercial, industrial or multi-residential development, they all go through site plan approval. Here I think I've only had 3 since I've been here. We had one for the water bottling plant. We had one for Whispering Springs. We've had one for the church up in Roseneath, and this 4. This one for a single detached dwelling.
Would this work for Bridgman's?
Pardon me?
Would this work for Bridgman's?
No, this has nothing to do with Bridgman's. Bridgman's is a consent application, a severance application, and this only pertains to site plans.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the other significant thing. And the changes also included a new minister's zoning order, what was it? Sorry. A new minister's order making authority to respond to municipal council resolutions requesting expedited zoning, and the minister will issue guidelines governing the scope of this authority. It's all about minister zoning orders. Apparently they're going to have some sort of an authority that's going to oversee those. So over the coming months, staff are going to review our planning process to ensure that we can reduce the potential requirement for refund of site plan and zoning bylaw amendment fees. I think we're pretty good on that. And a bylaw will need to come forward to amend our site plan control bylaw.
Okay. Do we need to receive and file that? Receive and file your report? Motion to receive and file the
Or you
planning
could
report?
receive it and ask staff to bring back, because we're going to have to bring back the site plan control bylaw and
Yep.
also the fees, report on the fees. So
I don't think we really have to do anything on the fees.
I guess not, because it's part of the legislation,
Yeah, I think it's just the
the site
site
plan
plan
control.
control bylaw.
Okay, so a motion to receive the report and ask staff to bring back a report on a bylaw amendment or the bylaw amendment, the bylaw amendment. Moved by Counselor Hogg, second by Counselor Phillip. All in favor? Thanks. There's a lot of changes to go through, Jennifer. Okay. No announcements, notices of motions that are planning related. Counselor Booth.
Yep, just something quickly, just that we did have a meeting about short-term rentals on Tuesday, April 26th. And just to thank you very much to the staff that attended. It was well attended by the public and we got a lot of good ideas from people. I guess I do have a question for the senior planner since we have her here, just for clarification. It was brought up about doing something like Toronto did, which was if we banned Airbnbs only if it was a primary residence. Is that what Toronto did, you said, Jennifer?
Toronto permits Airbnbs in a person's primary dwelling, and that's the address that they get their mail at. And they permit short-term rentals of their primary dwelling up to a maximum of 180 days. So that means that if somebody lived in Toronto and they were a snowbird, they could use their primary residence as a short-term rental for 120 days while they were south.
Okay, and if the town went that way, am I still understanding that the 40 or 46 or however there are many right now are grandfathered then, right? Are they excluded from that then? You can't retroactively.
That is correct, that they exist, if we went ahead with a bylaw that prohibited short-term rental accommodations except in a person's primary dwelling, primary residence, that the existing 40 would be legal non-conforming uses. And we would just have to wait them out.
Okay, and by waiting them out, would that mean that if I owned one and I sold it, that means then that I give up that? Like if somebody sold an Airbnb, they were using it as an Airbnb and somebody bought it, they can't, the new owner, can they continue under that grandfathering clause, or would that be?
Yes, they
So
can.
that piece of property could eternally be an Airbnb.
It could be. It could be. I believe the legal non-conforming case law is that a use needs to cease to exist for, I forget whether it's 2 or 3 years. And if it ceases to exist, if somebody we're talking mainly about cottage properties. If somebody bought a cottage property that was currently being used as a short-term rental, they used it as their just family cottage and didn't market it as a short-term rental for a period of 2 or 3 years, then it would lose its legal non-conforming status.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my concern then is if we did something like that, how do we look after, can we pass bylaws or whatever that can monitor and inspect and do things like that to the grandfathered ones? Or are they exempt from all these fire inspections and everything else? Like, because a lot of those ideas of the fire inspections and everything, I liked all that, right? To get in there to make sure they're safe. But are we basically saying the ones that are in under the wire now are going to get away? They don't have to be inspected. They don't have to be licensed. They don't have to be.
I think I would have to confirm this with our lawyers. We're still going to have a licensing bylaw, and the license, because the license, if you're proposing to permit them in a person's primary dwelling, I'm assuming you still want to license them. And if you're going to have a licensing bylaw, I'm not sure, but I think there should be a way that we can require all short-term rentals to be permitted or to require a license and permit them only in certain zones. But if they exist and they're not in those zones, they're legal non-conforming, but they still require, under the licensing bylaw, they still require a license because it says all short-term rentals require a license.
Okay, because that's my concern is the ones that are already here, we want to be able to make sure that, you know, the rules apply to them too, that we can do fire inspections, we can make sure about their parking and stuff like that. So we can still enforce those things, and that would address a lot of the concerns that was raised on Tuesday night then.
That is my understanding, yes.
So I guess my next question is, are you presenting a report to council next month or that on what our options are? Because I know council had asked you to come through with all the hard work you did on the licensing and everything like that, but are we going to be given other options, for example, like the Toronto one, which is?
I take my direction from council on this, because at the outset, in the initial report, I provided several options for council, and this is the approach that I thought council seemed to be leaning towards at that point in time, because you have the I think one of the recommendations or the options presented was you can outright ban short-term rental accommodations. And if you outright ban short-term rental accommodations, then you'd just be left with the 40 existing legal non-conforming ones. The other option was the Toronto one. And then there was this one that's modeled on Huntsville that seemed to be, I thought at the time, the one that council was leaning towards. So I'll take council's direction on what they would like, on what they want to do, because this was the short-term rental accommodation bylaw was requested by council. So I'll take your direction.
And I understand,
Yeah.
and you did a lot of good
Yeah.
work on it, and it was.
Yeah.
I just think it was a big eye opener. I know for myself, I can't speak for other councillors, that maybe other options we should be looking at because of the grandfathering, right? Is that's a concern that I have. So I'm hoping the other councillors agree that we can have Jennifer come back to us with what exactly our options are, not just the proposal that we had.
Based on public comments received.
And it would include, I guess, basically what you said, which was 3 options. We could look at what Toronto does, which is it be your primary residence. We could look at a total ban, or we could look at the model that was presented on Tuesday night.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're requesting that staff prepare 3 bylaws for short-term rental accommodations for council's consideration at the May meeting?
I don't know if bylaw is the right, I'm looking at options, right? But if it's bylaw is the word you want to use, I just don't want us to get, like, if you're going to present this again in May and we discuss it and then say we want to look at other options, we're going to be going into June, July. I know there was a concern about May 2-4 weekend and other people getting in under the wire that we're going to go from 40 to 50 or 60 people that would be grandfathered. So it just, a lot of concerns were brought up, and I looked at them like, yeah, there are other options we can possibly look at.
Yes, that's why I was wondering whether you wanted me to bring 3 bylaws, because if we have actually, instead of options, if I only bring you options and you say we're going to choose option A, then we have to wait until either the next planning meeting or another council meeting to pass the bylaw. But if we bring 3 bylaws and you've got bylaw A, B, and C, you can decide at that point in time whether you want A, B, or C.
Okay, no, that very
Greg,
good.
Can I recognize Mike to speak? Sure. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. I'm glad that Councillor Booth jumped into the pool here on this one, because it's been something that I'm sure we've all been thinking about since our public meeting. And so I phoned a friend of mine who's on the planning committee in Toronto, who's a counselor, and he had a very interesting comment, and he said that they have a really hard time tracking people's primary residence, and that it costs a lot of time and money, and they have paralegals having to search to see whether it is the primary residence or whether it's not. And he said another big issue is that the often the owner is offshore. And so they have to search that it still stands as his primary residence. And there are some legal matters that have developed as a result of this. So I just wanted you to know that it's not as easy as that. I always have an opinion, so here it comes. I think that we should proceed with a stringent bylaw that regulates these folks, these homes, and it regulates them all, whether or not they've been established or not. That would be my first recommendation, and I'm hoping that when Jen brings it back, that there'll be something along that line. And she's worked very hard at achieving that. And I think with a few tweaks, we can put that one in place and to bed fairly quickly. But here it comes. I don't think we should, I think we should simply ban them going forward. I think our recreational areas are saturated as it is with what we have. And unfortunately, we can't help those folks up there that came to the delegation yesterday, other than to put stringent restrictions in place for those people who, and it is a minority, who abuse the privilege. And those people should eventually, after 3 complaints, be weeded out of the system to leave the good folks that are doing this business wisely and safely. So my feeling then, to summarize, is we continue with the bylaw. That's not wasted on me at all. That will control what we have. And I would say that we have enough of this in our township now, and that we simply save ourselves dollars and time by outlawing any future development. That would be my position. Thank you.
Councillor Hogg, did you have a
Yes.
response to Councillor Booth?
I do, through you, your worship. I think that everything that Mike said is, I agree with, and these people were concerned that fines would not be adequate enough. And I think that we should have some type of, maybe strike 3 year out, where it's a complete termination. Because we only have probably 6 or 7 or whatever that were the bad out of the 42. And I hate to see anybody that's running a good operation be classed as all under the same thing. And when there's only a few bad ones that are creating the biggest problem. So I think we should have some type of a complete termination, if that's at all possible.
So I'm going to wade further into the conversation and say that I have a big concern that if we wait until the next planning meeting to address this, that there's going to be a whole lot of additional short-term rental properties come on that are going to be grandfathered. So I guess my question, Jennifer, is can we push this up so that we address this issue before the next planning meeting and prior to the upcoming May 24th Victoria Day long weekend?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. Pat, we can't get it on next week's agenda. When does council meet again?
We have a meeting on the 19th, which is just before the long weekend.
So
Only question I would have for you, Jennifer, is do we have to provide any notice? I know we had the public
we had
meeting.
the public meeting, so I don't think we need to provide any further notice. We had a public meeting to discuss these. Based on the discussion council opted to revise the bylaw, I don't think we have to publish it, re-notify.
Okay.
And then my other concern is at the meeting, we kind of indicated we would be dealing with it on the 26th. So
Correct.
we have to make sure that people were aware if we're going to deal with it sooner than later, what that time frame is.
We do have a comprehensive list.
Yes, we do.
of attendant, people who attended the public meeting. So if council decides to deal with this at an earlier meeting, we could put it on our website. We could put it on the Let's Talk Alma Haldeman website, and we could send out notification to all of those that attended the public meeting. And we do have a couple of other people who didn't attend the public meeting that have been provided comments. We could mail out notice to them that council will be considering a bylaw at that point.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
I guess the question is, if we pass it, say it's as late as the 19th, do we have to come back and do anything else, or is that bylaw then in effect that day?
That day.
A licensing bylaw is in effect that day. The zoning bylaw amendment
need
is
the
in
appeal
effect
period.
that day, but you have to have a 20-day appeal period. And if there's no appeals received during the appeal period, it comes into effect the day that it was approved.
Okay.
So it comes into effect subject to an appeal.
And I'm just making a suggestion because it's an important thing. I think council should even look at if we have to have a special meeting called, if it doesn't quite fit, or you can't get it, or if you can get it done before the 19th or whatever, in case there's any issues. The other comment I wanted to make was what Councillor Hogg said. So if you're bringing, and we keep talking about 3 proposals, I don't know, maybe there's 5 bylaws, sorry, I'll correct myself. If there's 3 bylaws, I'm concerned about the ones that are grandfathered. So if we were to go, and I agree with Councillor Mike when he said, I'm in favor of a complete ban, because the issue is going to be, the enforcement is going to be tough. And looking at the enforcement with the rules and everything we had there, we're going to need more staff. Not just staff, you're going to need vehicles, because how are bylaw officers going to be going out there on the weekend and everything else? It can't be the person that we have now. He'd be working 7 days a week, every day during the month, right? So I'm concerned about the cost. And one of the members of the public brought it up that we're looking at taking in $20,000. And in my head, we're looking at spending $100,000 or more just to enforce just this. So I guess my question to you, after all that rambling, sorry, Jennifer, is the 3 strikes you're out. Can that apply to the grandfathered people, or no? They are totally, so let's not kid ourselves. If you're already in under the line, under the wire, the 3 strikes you're out is not going to apply to these people, Jim.
I will review it with our municipal solicitor again. But as I understand it, we can require them to be licensed, but I do not believe we can revoke their license. I don't believe we can, but I will talk to them once again and get that confirmed again, because they're legal non-conforming use. I tried to find out if there was a way that we could make them not a legal non-conforming use, but I was told we couldn't. And you can pass a bylaw that says anything if you're challenged.
Well, I agree. And,
So
and
it's-
some
if
of the
you're
comments
challenged. So
made
if
by
you're
the
not-
public.
If you're not challenged, if we require them to license and we charge them 3 times, and then we say we're going to revoke your license, and we revoke their license. Unless maybe they'll fold up the tape, their cards and leave. But if challenged, we might not be able to defend. We may not be able to get them to stop.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I think we need to be putting pressure on the OPP that they respond to those complaints seriously.
And I think the problem with the OPP, Deputy Mayor, is like they said, they go up there, if it's a noise complaint after 11 o'clock, they'll do something. But if there's too many people parking on the lawn, or if there's 20 tents parking in somebody's lawn, the OPP is going to wash their hands. because they just strictly say it's a bylaw issue, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to enforce our bylaws, the OPP. So I agree with the first comment you made. It's very important that we rush this through just because we want to make sure that we're not going to get another 10 or 15 people start to rent out their places, and then we end up with 60 or 70 that we're going to have to deal with.
So, yes, the question you, Pat, then I could ask for a motion to direct staff to place this on a agenda prior to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So I don't know, you've got the floor, Councillor Booth. You're still in your notices of motions and comments. So if you'd like to make that motion.
Could I make a quick comment?
Oh, sorry, Mike. Yes.
Thank you, and I'm in favor of everything that everybody said, but Councillor Hogg made a comment. I'm not sure he made it publicly, or he certainly made it to me at the meeting of the whole, and that was that the fines, he talked about the fines. And if we can't, three strikes you're out, then my suggestion through Councillor Hogg is let's make these fines really bite. And that way we can drive them out financially. Because if Jen finds out that that they're null and void, that they can just keep going despite getting a slap on the wrist, then I think Jim's point is a solid one. Let's make these fines 3 or 4 times what they are, so it hurts, and then they'll conform or they'll get out. So that's something that I just wanted Jen to consider while she's rethinking as a result of council's recommendations here, because I do respect the fact that she has done exactly what we asked her to do. And I apologize for that, Jen, but the whole thing is just kind of matured as we've listened and learned. And so, I'm not surprised that council is pivoting on this and looking at some completely different approaches. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Booth.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, I guess, that we have staff report back to council, and you can write it any way you want, Jennifer, that makes it that you come back to us with, I don't want to say 3 bylaws because it could be more, but you come back to us with the bylaws that you think that council has an option of looking at and dealing with the Airbnbs. So something like that, because I don't want to say it's 3 because Jennifer, you might say it's 4 or whatever, but we're looking at 3. We were looking at the current one that you presented, which was great work. We're looking at the possibility of like Toronto, where you have to have your own, it has to be your primary residence. And then we're looking at the one where we out and out ban.
That's what I see.
Okay, so.
And that be brought forward at a meeting to be held.
So,
Can we nail that down today?
yeah, so I have my calendar. So our next regular meeting is after next week is the 19th. Did council want something prior to that? And I don't know how much time Jennifer is going to need in order to prepare the bylaws.
Well, through you, Deputy Mayor Gibson, I've got the one bylaw prepared. I would have to prepare, I don't think it should take too long, but I will say that the 2 other bylaws will need to go to our lawyer for legal review. And I will say that I will likely be bringing an overage report to council for their review with respect to the planning legal fees for this year, because there have been a couple of issues that have required legal attention.
Understood.
Just putting that one out there.
Yeah. Understood, Councillor Booth.
Yeah. Ching, ching.
Yep. I think that I'm just looking at my calendar now.
Because
I think if they go to the 19th meeting, it means the reports need to be prepared by the 12th. which I should be able to do.
Okay,
I don't think I'll be able to get them before that, though.
okay,
And then the appeal period would be the 8th of June. That's
Okay.
20 days from the 19th.
Yes,
all right.
but they wouldn't, any that started between when the bylaw was passed and the appeal period was up, wouldn't be able to be considered legal non-conforming.
Say that again?
Any Airbnbs that sprung up between the time that the bylaw was passed on the 19th and the appeal period expired on the 8th of June wouldn't be able to be considered legal non-conforming.
Okay, thank you.
Would they if there is no appeals? Because the bylaw becomes effective the date of passing.
They wouldn't be able to become. No, I don't believe so.
Okay,
Is
Unless they
this-
appealed though, right? If they appealed, their appeals is pending.
Yeah.
okay.
Is this something that council wants to have our municipal solicitor come and talk to them about?
No,
No?
I would trust that you're gonna go
Okay.
to them and get
Okay.
advice and write your bylaw.
Okay,
Okay, so Counselor Booth has a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second
Counselor
that.
Hogg, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, thank
And
you.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we've got, Counselor Hogg,
I have
anything
nothing.
else?
No, nothing at this time.
I'm up next, and honestly, after all this discussion, I've nothing left to say. I think it was a great meeting Tuesday night. It was good to hear the comments, and I appreciate all of the staff involvement, Jennifer, all the time you spent, but you know, all the support staff that were able to come out, acting clerk, planning assistant, and the CBO and the CAO. It was great to have everybody there. So that's wonderful. So kudos to you guys, and hopefully we get this put to bed on May the 19th. So Counselor Phillip.
Ditto.
Okay, so I will be looking for a approval of the confirming bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw number 49-2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal planning meeting of Thursday, April 28th, 2022, be read and deemed to be passed this 28th day of April, 2022. Motion, Counselor Phillip, seconded by Counselor Hogg, all in favor. And motion to adjourn, be it resolved that the municipal planning meeting be adjourned at 11:19 a.m. Motion made by Counselor Phillip and seconded by Counselor Booth, all in favor. Thank you.
Don't run away because you have to sign the minor variances, please.
Thank you.
Okay. That's good.
Good discussion, everybody. Boy, we've really come together on this business. I tell you, I'm very proud of everyone.